I'm going to be talking to Ed Hurst, who's an energy economist at the University of Houston, about Donald Trump's oil policies and what the industry is actually doing, particularly in Texas and the Permian Basin. So, welcome to the interview, Ed.
Thank you, Markham.
Now, last month we had the Reserve Bank of Dallas put out its survey, which it does every quarter, and there were some. It basically shows that the industry, the oil and gas industry, is kind of pulling in its horns. Its prices are lower than required for them to keep drilling, and they're just going to take a wait and see attitude. Is that fair enough? A good summary of the survey?
Oh, absolutely true. The survey shows that it's contracting, but we know that from the data. Halliburton, NOV, SLB, formerly known as Schlumberger, um, they have all cut back, and it's oil field services guys that are taking the hit right now. The producers know that they can do fine if they just don't drill any wells.
How long can they do that for, Ed? Because we understand that with shale, it's a short-term play. You get most of your production in the 18 to 24 months, maybe a little longer, but generally about that long. So can they basically cruise on their existing well inventory? And if so, how long can they do that?
They can, and you're right, it is short term. But keep in mind that as the shale plays contract, and it's not unlikely that the U.S. could lose 500,000 barrels a day of production by the end of the year. That's going to have pressure to drive the prices up. The old saying is the cure for low prices is low prices.
Okay, so what are we likely to see from the industry going forward? And also, I should ask, what about what's going on at the global level? Because we see OPEC is bringing back production. Now, I guess, we're not going to see a big impact in the short term from that, according to the analysts I've been reading. And then we're seeing some of the agencies say that Chinese oil demand, which has driven oil demand globally for 20 years, is flat. It's peaked already and will be
It
flat out to 2030. So all of that together, all it seems very chaotic and not supportive of a growth strategy on the American oil patch part.
it's not a growth strategy across the globe. The rig count in the Middle East is still down below pre-pandemic levels. It's not expanding. Russia, of course, is trying to get as much oil out to the market as they can to get hard currency, and President Trump is trying to put some fences up around that with the threatened tariffs against India and China. But fact of the matter is, the global economy is soft. It's softer primarily because of the tariffs war. There's a feedback loop going on here. And the president has asked for oil prices below $50. Now, 2 weeks ago, he said 60 is a good, $60 oil is good. But then the tariffs, again, 50% tariffs on steel have increased the cost of drilling a well, especially in the Permian in West Texas, by 5 to 12%, according to the Dallas Fed Energy Survey. Every one of the oil patch is really just kind of retrenching, just kind of whistling past the graveyard, if you will, hoping that they don't get hammered with $50 oil.
Is it fair to say then that our expectations for the U.S. oil patch are basically, steady as she goes, and for the next, what, 6 to 12 months maybe, until there's some clarity in the market?
Well, clarity is going to be good. And the way the market is steering right now, the way it's being steered, the president knows that there are more than 160 million registered voters who will complain if the price of gasoline or diesel goes up 5 cents a gallon. And there are only about 2 million people who work in the oil patch. Um, you know, just set aside the rhetoric and see what the actions are. And the actions call for lower for longer, if you will. We heard that a while ago. OPEC, the Saudis want to produce some more oil. They want more market share. Eventually, over time, this will put some pressure on supply, and we'll see the price begin to inch up, but maybe not until the end of the Trump term.
And there's a question. Canadians are interested in this because there's been a lot of talk about Trump, putting a tariff on Canadian oil and gas, particularly oil, and that's ultra heavy sour crude. And
Right.
there's only 5 million barrels of refining capacity in the US for that. And 70% of it was configured specifically for Alberta oil. And there's been a lot of concern that some of those refineries would shift over to US light, the shale oil. Are we seeing any evidence of that? And is it likely to happen in the future?
No, we're not seeing any evidence. It's too costly to change these refineries over. Lyondell refinery on the Houston Ship Channel is closing. It's configured to refine the heavy crude from Canada or Mexico or Venezuela. Mexico and Venezuela have not been significant players for the longest time. It doesn't make sense for them to reinvest almost $1 billion now to get the refinery back up to operating specs just to manage the Canadian crude that's coming through that they have. So they're closing. We're seeing refineries in California close. Certainly the refineries through the mid-continent region, those that rely upon the heavy Canadian crude coming down by pipe, Commerce City, for example, Denver, Wyoming, those will close also. I mean, refinery capacity is just not anything that makes a lot of money, except on those um, occasions when the market is short. And that's typically because a refinery has gone down in a particular market area.
Ed, let's wrap up the interview this way. Is it fair to say that we're seeing a structural change in the North American oil and gas industry? I mean, there's a lot, the US industry exports a lot of its output. The Canadian industry exports almost all of its output into the United States. As you mentioned, a number of refineries are closing. Um, are we seeing structural change that, this isn't cyclical, this is permanent? You close a refinery, you're not going to open it up again. So what's your take on that?
Well, the U.S. is the high cost producer for oil in the global market. The shale plays, as prolific as they are high cost. 50, 60, $70 a barrel to get it out. And as we know from the Dallas Fed Energy Survey in the fourth quarter of 2024, no one's going to drill new wells unless the price is $70 a barrel or higher looking ahead. And now the costs have gone up due to the tariff war. So, this is a squeeze. Unless we see the price of oil get up to about $100 a barrel, the U.S. industry is going to be in a contraction for the foreseeable future.
Ed, as always, thank you very much. Really appreciate this.
My pleasure.